G'day, and welcome to the latest episode of the Relationship Revolutions podcast. And this week you've just got me. And we're going to be talking about the top 20 myths or misconceptions of long-term relationships and marriages. Firstly, if you're looking at getting married, it's useful to know these things in advance. And if you've already been married and divorced, there can be some useful things to learn from here as well. So, let's get into this. Episode 45, bringing us to the end of season 3. And I'll be back fairly soon with season 4. But I will be taking a couple of weeks off. So, let's get into number 1. And that myth is, it's all about finding the one. And this is something I've come across several times as a coach, but it's also something I believed in my earlier years, trying to find that elusive one that was just going to be perfect for me, a soulmate, if you like. But all this talk of finding the one, it's only part of the story. The part of the story that misses out is becoming that one best version of yourself on a regular basis. So you're not trying to fake it till you make it, for want of a better expression. It becomes who you are, that best version of yourself. Number 2. This comes from, I believe it was Marilyn Monroe originally. That says, if they can't handle me at my worst, they don't deserve me at my best. Now, this is all very well and good. But the challenge with it is, if at my worst, I'm absolutely horrible, unlovable, and abusive, and whatever else that worst may look like, it puts everything on to the other person so they should be able to tolerate it or accept it, and it does nothing for this person or me, to whoever that may be, to actually do anything about the behaviour and how you're showing up in a relationship. There's no personal responsibility there. And along with that, what I would say is, if you've not seen your partner at their worst, do you really want to walk down the aisle? Because you don't fully know that person. And if they've not seen you at your worst, they don't fully know you. Number 3 is, it's about the illusion, inspired a lot by Walt Disney, of this happily ever after thing. Because on those movies, in those fairy tales, it gives you this illusion that you meet that special person, which goes back to number 1 again, and you will live happily ever after. As if to say, if you're in the best relationship for yourself, or you've met that special one, you will never have an argument, which isn't strictly true. I may well come back to that further down this list. Along with this, fitting into this, is this idea that it's my partner's job or my spouse's job to make me happy. Well, they can do things with the intention of making me happy, whatever it may be. But if internally I'm not there, and I'm not ready to go there, I'm not going to be happy whatever my partner does. Number 4 is this idea that men and women are both the same. Well, yeah, we are both human beings. You're both spiritual beings having a human experience, depending on whatever your belief may be. Are we the same? No. Firstly, we are physically different. We're designed that way. If the whole world was just men, there would be one generation that it would have stopped. And if there were just women, there would be one generation and it would have stopped. We need both to be different. But that's just the physical side, isn't it? No, we are different mentally and emotionally as well. We have different operating systems. It's a little bit like holding an iPhone in one hand and an Android phone in the other and saying they're both smartphones, so they're both the same. Well, they've got different operating systems. And even if you did happen to have an iPhone and an iPhone, the apps would be different, the photos would be different, the memories would be different. We're just not the same. We are all individual beings. Number 5 is the myth that if there are challenges in your relationship, that means that you've picked the wrong person, or they've picked the wrong person, whichever way you look at it, and you're not a good match. Well, that's not the case. Because say you get married when you're 25 and you stay together for 50 years. Any two people on this planet, whether they're married or not, are not going to see eye to eye and agree on everything throughout that whole 50-year duration. And if they did, wouldn't it be boring? And a lot of the time, we don't even agree with ourselves. We do silly stuff and then we wonder why we did it. Challenges are part of a relationship. That relationship will be challenged when life changes, be it through a career thing, through divorce, through redundancy, or change of job to one with longer hours or different shift patterns. That relationship will change. When you have children, that relationship will change. When you move in together, that relationship will change. When your children get older, that relationship will change. When you retire, that relationship will change. And every change will bring a challenge. Something new to get used to. Instead of trying to hide from these challenges or find somebody who's not going to bring any challenges, learn to embrace them and face them together as a team. Number 6. This comes from some of the talk I hear from the red pill kind of community, where it says secure marriages or secure relationships don't need boundaries. Well, we are individuals, yes, we do. Within that relationship, we still need to have boundaries. And the red pill idea especially is that women don't need to set themselves boundaries because men should do that for them. Well, I don't agree with that. We should have our own individual boundaries for a reason. And that is part of a healthy relationship. Number 7. Don't go to bed angry. Well, not all disconnects and conflicts are going to be resolved the same day. Some of them never get resolved. And that's okay. Some things are perpetual, they are ongoing. They are part of the journey. They are part of that relationship. And also, this comes back a little bit to the differences between men and women. Because if there is an argument that happens, say, sometime in the evening, and he needs a bit of silence and space to process what's going on so that he can communicate that, if she decides to keep trying to have that argument and get a resolution without him having that space and processing time, that resolution is not going to come. And you either go to bed angry, or you just never go to bed. So sometimes, just have that time out and go to bed. Sleep on it. Look on it with fresh eyes the following day. Number 8. Marriages and long-term relationships are 50-50. Well, I get the idea behind it. It's like, I bring my 50% and my partner brings her 50% and together we are one. It doesn't always work like that. Sometimes you're not in a place where you can bring that 50% and your partner takes up the slack. Other times, they're not in a place where they can bring that 50% and you take up the slack. And really, when it comes to these long-term relationships, it should be each partner bringing 100% of themselves, the best versions of themselves that is possible in that moment. Number 9, kids come first. This is a very controversial one, really. And the answer to it really is the parental relationship comes first, because that sets the foundation of a healthy relationship within those children. And it doesn't create that sense of entitlement for the children either. It creates a space of love. And that is where children really want to live, in a place where love exists. Number 10. The sex should be as passionate after 20 years as it was in the beginning. Well, unfortunately, it doesn't work that way a lot of the time. In fact, nearly all of the time, really. In the early days, there's that new excitement that keeps that sexual passion and sexual drive alive. But with that consistency over time, sometimes it will fade off. And sometimes it can get boring. But also, what I find with a lot of couples who are going through a dry spell, if you like, when they look at other areas of their relationship where things are not so great and they're not feeling as connected as they were, they're not feeling the sexual desire as they were either. When those things are resolved, that desire and the sexual connection comes back again, as does the passion. Number 11. Love is all you need. Well, sometimes love is not enough. And I'm sure most of the parents listening will be able to relate to this. I love my kids, and sometimes they really push my buttons, and I could kill them. I never will. But I have that feeling of rage or frustration because they're not behaving the way that I would want to. And that can happen with our partners as well, even if or when we love them. Sometimes you may love somebody who's not actually a good fit for a long-term relationship with you. Or they may love you and you're not in a place for a long-term relationship. And that's okay. Sometimes love just is not enough. Sometimes that love that makes the relationship last a long time is through actions and decisions, behaviours, and how you show up within that relationship more than it is about an emotion. Number 12, marriage guarantees commitment and love. Well, no, it doesn't. It guarantees it's harder to get out of that relationship if it doesn't work out. If it guaranteed commitment, there would be no such thing as adultery. And all those divorces have happened because of that. Wouldn't have happened. It doesn't guarantee it. It doesn't guarantee love either. It's how you show up and the efforts that you both put in working together as a team to make that relationship work that brings the guarantee. That choice to keep showing up, even when it's hard. Number 13, great relationships come naturally and easily. Well, I think it's fairly safe to say, going by the 12 points we've raised so far, that no, it doesn't. It shouldn't be really, really hard, but it does take effort. It takes a lot of communication, it takes a lot of understanding, it takes a lot of love, it takes a lot of compassion, it takes a lot of empathy, it takes a lot of action. Number 14, the first year of marriage is always the hardest. Well, it can be hard, but also that first year, you could still have a lot of that infatuational, in love energy that keeps everything amazing for the first year. It could be the first year as parents that is the hardest. It could be farther down the line when somebody loses a parent that year is the hardest. The times that are hardest for every couple is going to be very and different for every single one. Number 15, keep doing the things you did in the early days forever, and your relationship will last forever. Well, the things you did in the early days, yes, they're going out on date nights and things like that. Keep doing them. But also, as your relationship grows and evolves, and as you evolve as people, you are going to change anyway, and you're going to have different relationship needs. So the things that you do to keep a relationship alive need to grow as well. Number 16, you'll never feel the temptation or attraction for another person if you've picked the right one. Well, I don't agree with this. And the reason I don't agree with it is because that temptation is always going to be there. As human beings, we get attracted to and want the things that we don't have right now. So in those times where we feel like we're lacking physical touch or quality time, whatever it may be, and we look at someone else and think, oh, well, they could bring me that, there is going to be a sense of attraction there. that temptation is always going to be there, especially in the modern world with all this online stuff as well. With social media continuously bombarding us with pretty or handsome or pretty members of the opposite sex, or movies that play out a relationship that's lines up with the dream relationship you have, but the one you're in doesn't quite do it. That temptation is always going to be there. The question is whether you act on that temptation or not. Number 17, that relationship or marriage will cure loneliness. And mixed in with that is this idea that that special someone, that elusive one, will complete me. Well, we are complete as individuals. We don't need somebody else to complete us, to complement us and bring things to our life that we can't do on our own. Those magical moments, absolutely. The challenge with this is if you are feeling lonely outside of a relationship, just in your own company, you will also feel lonely in that relationship. Number 18. If they love me, they will marry me. They will put a ring on my finger. They will say yes. Well, as with that earlier point about love not being enough, love alone is not the reason to get married. It is a great reason, absolutely. But the question is, if he's not putting a ring on your finger, is that because he's struggling to believe that he's worthy of you? Or is it because he can't see that marriage being better than the relationship you have right now? What is behind that? If she's not saying yes, well, what is behind that? It may not be because she doesn't love you. It may be because she does, and she knows that she's not a fit for you, for marriage, for a long-term relationship. That is a conversation you have to have between yourselves. Number 19. I will always have this in-love feeling. It would be great if we could, because it does feel amazing, and there's nothing wrong with that feeling. Unfortunately, it does not last, no matter how much you love each other. But even as good as that feeling is, the feeling of being deeply connected to somebody for the long term, they just do not compare. That depth of connection is a much better feeling. And finally, number 20, scheduling time for conversations or sex is unromantic. Well, for a lot of busy people, if things don't go into their calendar, it does not happen. Not everything must be spontaneous. Sometimes things are more likely to happen if they're planned out. Not necessarily all the details, but that section of time each week or each day, whatever it may look like for you, that says to your partner that I am committing this time to you and to us, to our relationship. Nothing else is more important. How is that not romantic? And I'll leave it with you there. If you have any questions or takeaways you'd like to share, I'd love to hear about them. And also, if there's any topics you'd like me to cover in the next series or in one of these solo episodes, then drop me an email or reach out to me on social media.